And today we are going to talk about um, global, how digital transformation is happening in the AI area, the global employment in the AI area, the transformation, the digital transformation process. So no transformation. I'm really happy to have our two guests here today. They come from two renowned education institutions in Brazil, US, and Argentina. Let me tell you a little bit about the event format. It's important to get into this conversation. It's going to be a chat one-on-one with both guests, like 10 minutes for each one. Then you're going to have a round table to have some questions in common for both of it. But throughout the event, it's important for you to add your questions to the presentation. I have two channels where we are broadcasting this event. We have in Portuguese in Grupo Uninter main channel, but we are also have our broadcast in English in our global hub channel. It's very important for global issues, and we have guests that are fluent in different languages, but we are gonna talk with the first guest, Damian Seltzer, in English, and then with Ivanise Gomes in Portuguese, and our roundtable is going to be in Portuguese, and you can feel free to ask your questions. I like to highlight that the Uninter departments that make possible this event, marketing, all directors of our schools who have supported this project, and most important people are you, our guests, our students who are here with us today. Please be the protagonist. I think global employment and all the changes that we have with AI requires all these changes require testing the waters, and for this reason, I'm not talking a lot about our guests because I think it's more important for you to hear from them. But Damian, I'm gonna turn into English, but he has an experience in leading teams both in Brazil and Argentina. He's now in the US, and he's going to talk a little bit about his experience, and I'm going to switch into English.
Thank you so much for finding the time to speak with us. And I was hoping that we could just start off with you sharing a few highlights from your personal and professional life since college, and help us understand a little bit about your background.
Okay, great. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here with all of you today. So just to share a little bit about myself, I was born and raised in Argentina. Nobody's perfect. I went to college in Argentina, have an undergrad in accounting. And after college, I worked in consulting in all Latin America, so in projects in Argentina and Brazil, Chile, and Peru. After that, I moved to the US to do my MBA. I went to the MIT in Boston. I did 2 years there. And after that, I held different roles as a general manager, roles in finance, and roles in operations for multinationals. Most of my career was with two companies. One of them is Mars, that everybody knows, multinational, for producer and set of chocolates and pet food. So I was with them for around 8 years in different roles in finance, mostly in the US, but with some working on some global projects. And with Bridgestone, I joined them in the US. Bridgestone is a producer of tires in the automotive industry, also with a strong presence in Latin America. So I was with them as CFO for Latin America first, based in Nashville in Tennessee. Then I moved to Brazil for 3 years as a VP of operations. Then I moved to Argentina as a general manager for Bridgestone Argentina, then back to Brazil as a country manager or general manager for the operation in Brazil, which is quite large. Is the second largest operation for them. And after that, last year, I moved back to the US, to Nashville. So you can imagine my wife is really tired of moving, but the family is always moving with me. That's the pleasure that I have. And now I'm working as a consultant again, working based in Nashville, Tennessee, consulting mostly small to mid-size companies.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. So it's interesting because you've got, in senior executive roles at very large companies and also as a consultant looking at companies of different sizes.
Exactly.
How do you help organizations take on digital transitions and what does it mean to have sort of digital oriented management? And I know that people listening, right, they have to navigate it at a personal level, but what is it like to be navigating that at a large level?
Yeah, and I would say even so nowadays it's even more important to act fast. That's my first always advice. And my first reaction when we talk about digital transformation. So the world is evolving so fast, and businesses are evolving so fast that there's a real need to act right now for everybody. If not, there's a very high risk of being left behind. So my advice to C-level executives, to companies, is to embrace new technologies, encourage their employees to use those technologies, invest in training. And the good thing nowadays is implementation of new technologies is getting, the timing is shorter and shorter. When I started my career, when I was in consulting, I implemented huge ERPs for large corporations. Each implementation would take at least 2 years. Nowadays, any AI tool that you implement can be done in 2 months. So we move, really fast. And it used to be like, having sophisticated tools used to be only for large corporations who could fund it, like SAP or those large systems. Nowadays, with the AI, it's like a democratization of digital tools. So any company of any size can now have access to a very powerful tool in a very short period of time, and with small resources to implement.
Interesting. So you talked a little bit about the scope and the size challenge and how that has changed, that things are now accessible with much smaller companies. What about culturally? So you worked at Mars, which I would assume has one culture, and then the auto sector, that's a different culture. You're consulting to companies of different sizes. How does that, sort of industry or sector-based question, does it come into the equation for digital transformation? And if so, how?
It varies by sector. But in my experience, I work mostly for more mature businesses. And really implementing the technology, the biggest challenge is the change management. So as you have companies who have been very successful, doing the same thing for 30 years, for 50 years. And so the first reaction from almost everyone is, why do we need to change now? If, we've been successful doing things the way we've been doing so far, why do we need to implement a new system or, change our processes? And so that, that challenge begins with people. So that usually, the first resistance that you see is with people, but as soon as you convince them that adopting the new technologies is the way to go, the way to survive in the future, I mean, the reaction is totally different. And it's basically, you know, what brought you here is not going to take you where you want to go. And so it's more, when we think about technologies or, you know, digitalization, it's more, at the end of the day, it's more about people than about systems themselves.
Right. And one thing, you know, you've worked in places where, you know, change is fast, right? It's happening quickly all over the world, of course, now, but in Brazil and in Argentina, places where, you know, currency fluctuations or other things happen, they have a big impact on the business. So I'm curious, when you succeed at implementing a big SAP type system or something that cuts across the whole organization, what does that mean in terms of agility of decision making for an executive?
Yeah. Basically, when you implement those large systems, you know, you need to think of them as enablers. So what do you need to accomplish, you know, in your business strategy, in your decision making every day? And then you use the sales system to help you. A mistake that I've seen many times in my career is, you know, to implement the system first and then decide what you're going to do with the system. So if you do that, it's completely backwards, and you end up wasting time and resources. You know, you may spend I saw companies spending tens of millions of dollars to implement a huge you know, system, and at the end of the day, what they did was, okay, having a nicer interface, but you know, processes didn't change. They didn't adapt the system to what they needed. So the first thing that is critical for a small system implementation to one of those large ERPs is to be clear on what you need the system for. What problem do you want the system to help you solve? So is it that you need speed in decision making? Could be, do you need to interconnect the different areas? So in large corporations, you may need that system to make those connections happen. Or you probably need more accuracy in your operational or financial reports. But you need to be very clear upfront before you implement those tools.
So let's just say you succeed at doing this, right? So you're working in an organization that's mapped its processes and it's figured out what it wants to do. Two things that certainly, at least in the private sector, that companies care about are their margins and their profitability. So what does it look like if you're in a company that's successfully implemented and is a better position? What does that mean for managing profitability or managing margins if you manage to have that digital transformation that sets you up for faster decision making?
Yeah, it also varies by you know, economic context, and you know, depends also on the sector that you work. But let me tell you about my experience in working in countries like Brazil and Argentina, with huge volatility and uncertainty and changing rules all the time. I know that everyone in the audience understands what I'm talking about. And you know, the number one differentiating factor, you know, for a successful business is agility. You know, agility to, you know, make decisions under that uncertainty and under volatility. When I was in Argentina leading Bridgestone Argentina, for instance, that was you know, during a hyperinflationary period. So I was facing 25% monthly inflation, you know, something that the gringos will never understand. But you know, you need the agility to make decisions, you know, on the spot. I mean, whereas in you know, developed countries like the US or Western Europe, you take pricing decisions once a year, once a semester. When you're in hyperinflation, you need to make pricing decisions pretty much on a daily basis. I was, you know, changing my price list twice a month. And but in order to do that, you need systems to help you make those quick decisions. Like in that case, I had, you know, online pretty much, you know, pricing information for my competitors, from my products, SKU by SKU. And that was necessary because if I missed, a price increase in 1 month or in 2 months, I could be out of business very quickly. Again, 25% monthly inflation. That's huge. I mean, that's just one example, but we know that in our countries, things change all the time. Regulations change all the time. So you need a system, first of all, to provide, all the governance that you need. That's really important. Also, when you think about our country's very complex tax environment, so it's not just the agility piece that you need, but also you need the compliance in place. So the systems can give you, the baseline will be that compliance, because it can also put you out of business if you don't comply with fiscal requirements. But then once you have that in place, you need the agility to make decisions all the time, and you need information, right away.
Great. So I want to hit you with one more question, and then we're going to switch to
Yes.
Portuguese and go to Ivanise, and then
Sounds
we'll
good.
see you back when we do the mesa redonda. So
Sounds good.
you talked a bit about the need for financial agility and pricing. What about product development or innovation? How has the faster access to data or digital transformation changed product development?
Yeah, that's a great question. And what I would say, based on my experience, for new product viability, the key is to take control risks. And why I say that? Because many companies, in order to be innovative, they end up launching tons of products in the market, and then see what sticks. It's like trial and error. It doesn't work that well in every industry. Why? Because launching a new product is a huge drag of resources, of time, and energy. And so the best way to use systems and data is to minimize those risks when you launch a new product. So use data to estimate your market size. Use data to assess your competitors, to understand, what your customers need. And finally, to look at the financial feasibility. That's even before you launch. And so my advice always is take some time for the planning of a new product launch. And that planning can also help you kill projects before they go live. Sometimes, especially in large corporations, it's more important, to timely kill those projects or new products that will not succeed in the marketplace, and really focus on the few ones that will move the dial. So again, innovation and technology and data, accessibility to data, are very well connected. And if you use them wisely, you end up launching products that are going to be successful, long time, and not, the products that in a few months, you need to cancel for many reasons, either because they're not viable financially, or because customers, really don't want them or are not willing to pay the price for those.
Muito obrigado, Damian. Agora eu tô bem feliz também em poder conversar com a Ivanise.
Thank you so much, Damian. I'm really happy to talk to Ivanise. Now we have, from a management point of view, we spoke with Damian, who needs to sell and take advantage of new technologies. And the other trend that we have, people with a lot of baggage in terms of technology, and for large projects, in terms of innovation and digital transformation, people are extremely important, and technology changes really fast and will change what is feasible or not. So with Ivanise, we have a different level of conversation. If you can tell us, Ivanise, how did you start? Could you highlight your some highlights of your life? Thank you, Jason. It's a pleasure to talk to you today. And send us questions if you want to know more. We have a lot of things to do. We have a lot of things to say in a very short time. I came from technology. I'm Brazilian. I live in the US. Brazilian, was born in São Paulo. I've always studied and went to school and worked in the region of São Paulo, but I've traveled a lot. I started my career. I graduated at the ITA. At that time, it was called. It didn't have a different name. It was informatics. I also studied history at the University of São Paulo. I specialize in project management. I'm also a green belt, Six Sigma. It's something that I find very important for my career. It was very important. So I have been working with projects since very early on. I started as a software developer, but very early on, I was 20 something, I started working with projects, and I realized that helped me a lot in understanding how a company works regardless of the sector or the industry. I worked at IBM in their software plant as a developer, but also in quality. I worked at the USP at the university in systems. I worked at the library system, which had to do with technology implementation at late 1990s, when internet started showing their face. So I saw that happens from start. I started with IBM bank technology. Then I went to General Motors. I was a consultant in PMO and process improvements. I worked as a quality manager at General Motors for software development. And then I spent a few years in different, not e-com. I started as a PMO, and then I went to people management. I was an IT manager, and then I worked in what is called business relationship management, which is investment IT portfolio. So I started working there, and going back, then I was sent to, I come to the work. eBay is a company, and the division that I worked here, Eaton, it has like $1.5 million. And when I left Eaton, it's still in the US. I went to Rinnai, which is a Japanese multinational company. Here in the US, it's a company of $500 million, but globally a couple of $billion. And then I become a portfolio investment manager. So I'm part of the transformation portfolio. I manage product systems and everything else that I need to manage. If there's a project of business transformation, it's all under my belt, developing new products. So I started in technology, but right now I work with all sorts of transformation projects, not only digital transformation, but also business transformation as well. Did I manage to give you an idea of what I do? Yeah, I have so many things to say. We never have enough time. So I'm going to put together two questions in one for you. With digital transformation, can you tell us a little bit about bureaucracy? How we can have, how can you deal with bureaucracy? And again, remote work, what are the impacts and opportunities that you can see? I think you can talk about different things. My portfolio, for both when I was at Eaton and now at Rinnai, there are a few things in common. When you look at the transformation portfolio, there are a bunch of things that you need to get from what you're trying to, what you're bringing to the table. For people working in the office, that goes beyond the AI, because AI is an ally. It's a tool that you can use to improve efficiency of your teams, not only teams that are having operational work, but also for finance, for example. AI can help a lot finance to improve the efficiency of those working with invoices, for example. You want people to be more agile in this process. You can do that in a more tactical operational level, but also you can also use AI for decision making in your daily activity. You can use different database and business intelligence. So we have some market trends. We have some market managers using these to assess market intelligence. So there are many things that you can use. You have old stuff like process improvement using Six Sigma or analogic technology to be able to perform this type of thing. So how can we improve this process, be more efficient remotely or in person, but also very advanced things to transcribe, for example, a PDF that you receive by email and transform that into digital transformation, for example. So I've seen all that happening. When we talk about remote work, I think it's very controversial when you try to compare with in-person work. It helps a lot for those who are working remotely to be more efficient. You can work remotely because of a company decision, or because you work in a multinational company and you have someone in Brazil and the other in India. So this is a way of helping AI, helping these teams to be more efficient, working in a different time zone or in no online and collaborative work. We are always working in Japanese. And that's not many people who speak Japanese. So we use AI for translation. I want to read a document and understand what are the best practices in Japan. So I use AI to translate documents, then to wait a human to do it so I can understand what's happening in Japan. A quick question, and then you're gonna go to you as a student, for example, the transitions, and what to tell our students. But you talked about technology. Sometimes some people had some sort of aversion to adopting new technology, and some companies, these technologies have shown their efficiency, and you can always find resistance there. Can you use technology to face the problem that technology can bring to the table, like the adoption of technology? Say, okay, we are not so sure, but technology can help you do that. It's funny that you asked this question, because recently I'm a volunteer I'm a volunteer to speak with high school students. So I'm talking about teenagers, 12 to 17 years old, about AI. And I wanted to talk about this topic because I've been talking about this topic in my company and not about technology adoption. It doesn't apply only to AI, but I see many teenagers resistant to the AI. My son is 15 and he has many issues regarding AI. Maybe because you are afraid, you're not used to technology, or you don't trust technology. There are many ways to break to bring down these barriers. I've seen that working with these teenagers, and it happened with these teenagers and also with their teacher, who's actually my age, and he was very resistant. And after that, she said, "Oh, I've never thought I wanted to use AI, and now I want to." I think the way of doing it is to understand how it's all about communication, okay? Is you showing the user case or the case of use. You can do that for executives. When you show them the case, how does it apply to your reality? How it's going to make a difference in your life as an executive or as a student? Technology is just halfway through. The way you use it depends on the context. For example, when I give you an example, or I give an example to an executive about a teenager or a teenager teacher, how it's gonna help their life, that's when you are gonna win the game. I think there's no magic. You have to think about the case of use, how it's going to be used in reality, in practice, in a way that I can identify. Maybe I have my experience that I had, that I acquired in change management. I look, what I'm doing is I'm trying to convince people that this change can make a difference. And you see, there are two students here, Eduardo and Marco, who asked some different questions, not very focused on what you asked, but this comment is very important in a way of showing the case, showing the use case. And this is going to help encourage people to continue working and adopting technology, because you cannot see the use for it, then it's going to take ages for you to adopt it. Now, let's go to a round table with more relevant questions from our audience, and let's focus on your individual, your personal life, okay? We're going to have like 27 minutes. That's what we have left. So, how digital transformation is redefining competences. We have today our soft skills, which is or I don't know, and the hard skills, of course, and the technical part. What multinational companies are looking for, especially for some for beginner positions, like for a student starting their work life. What are your perspectives in terms of hard skills and soft skills? Damian, do you want to start? For me, the most important competence, soft skill, but it's crucial to everyone, for students, but also adults. It will be learning agility. Why I'm saying that? Because more and more the words has been changing. When I graduated, I knew that what I've learned at the university, technical stuff that I've learned at the university, I could apply for any company, and I could have a career doing that. Nowadays, you end up in your career, you learn some technical things that can be useful, but on the short run. And probably in 5 years, things will change, the company needs will change, and you still need to develop other knowledge. So for me, what is crucial is that what these companies are working is this learning agility, learning things fast, basically. From my point of view, I totally agree with Damian, but what I would add is curiosity and the ability to ask good questions, to be able to organize your thoughts, intellectually speaking. Well elaborated questions make a huge difference, not only in a daily life, but maybe you're in a meeting, in a project, you're asking the right questions and focusing on what really matters is very important. And for those who want to use artificial intelligence, this ability to ask AI in a very structural way and organize makes a huge difference. Because if you use AI asking the wrong questions or not knowing how to ask the questions, it's not going to have any utility. That you're going to get lost. So what came to my mind is what comes after the question. And I think it's something so simple. Listening is very important. So to you have a good answer, you have to ask a good question. And after that, you keep asking about the next question, or you try to assimilate the information that the person is sharing with you. So next question then is, it's very important. Damian said something technical. Of course, it's important on the short run, but it's always changing. But for students listening to us today who want to start in an executive position, it's important for you to, what is the digital competence and skill that you think that you need to have? I'm going to start because I'm going to make a joke here. For me, it's the most important thing is to have a good PowerPoint presentation. I think it's a skill. Why do you say that? I'm joking, but not really. Behind preparing a presentation, you need some skills that are extremely important. First of all, you need to have data analysis. Data analysis is a crucial competence that you need to develop. And storytelling, being able to organize the story you want to tell, taking into account the audience. Who's my audience? What does these people need? And what is the context that I'm presenting? Always focusing on results. So storytelling and prepare presentations, data analysis to be able to tell the story and format this story in a very interesting way for your audience. I totally agree with Ivanise. Just to add, I'd like to say that among hard skills or digital skills, it's important to understand how different tools work, AI tools work, what are their functionalities. Not everybody needs to know how to code, how to program a specific tool. But my advice, especially what I say to my kids, is every 20 minutes, every 2 or 3 days, test an AI. We have some free versions out there that you can test at home. Try a different tool every couple of days and test something simple. And you're going to get more familiarized with the use of these tools. I think it's crucial to understand its ability. 20 minutes here or there. So in 3 or 4 months, everybody will be able to have very good knowledge. And when we talk about executive positions, you need to understand how you can use these tools. And it's crucial always to keep this space. And in terms of soft skills, I think that not only you've mentioned, Jason, actually, the ability to listen, to have this active listening. I think that is very relevant for any business. Understand the client's needs. There is a trend huge trend, and I've seen that in different business, to develop products or services that are awesome, but nobody needs them. Nobody needs them. So I think technology and AI still can have this active listening. What is the market need currently or in the future? And listening to clients, understand what they need, and then have these ideas on the table, develop services, and there's a business behind all that. Okay, you all talked about the importance of playing with new things, acquire new competences, and be able to present, ask good questions. Great. We have 24 hours in a day only. How can you, throughout your career, assess how much time I have to learn something more technical? How much do I need to invest to speak better and be a better communicator? So Ivanise, if you can go first. When I saw this question you've sent us, I said, I don't know if I can answer this question well. I don't know if I did it well in my career. Maybe I would do differently if I had the opportunity to go back in time. I focused a lot in my technical part, but not much in relationship. Like balancing those two things is very important. If you can do that in your work context, even better. I did that well. Choose a job where you have the opportunity to learn, and at the same time that you are working, that's the best of all worlds. You can invest this time in learning new techniques, win the little stars in your uniform, but intentionally also working on your relationship skills. And I think that's very important. Outside of your work environment, it's very important because you can still see what's happening in the market and creating or improving your network. For us, that's not natural. And we need some dedication. Just like Damian said, that you can have spent a few times a day doing that. You should also spend a few times a week in networking, being connected with people when you are ready to move within or outside the company. You need to have that. Don't allow things to happen organically. I think that you have to be intentional in this sense. I think that's the greatest learning I would recommend to someone in my career. In my experience, you have to balance both the technical part and interaction with people. And logically, in the beginning of my career, I think the greatest weight is you have to put in technical skills, and you work more independently, work more alone, not really interacting with others or leading a group of people. But you cannot forget, as Ivanise said, you cannot concentrate 100% of your time only in the technical part. Otherwise, you're going to forget about relationships, and that's crucial when you advance in your career. You need to develop more and more those soft skills, more human skills. And when you talk about AI, human skills are really more relevant than anything. They are going to stay for humans, not for machines. And then when you advance in your career, you start leading a group of people. This relationship is critical. These soft competences are critical. Why? Because if you're leading a group, you lead a group doesn't mean, okay, I'm going to give the guidelines of what they have to do and that's it. No, you have to engage people. You need to coach people. You need to align everybody. And when everybody understood your goals, the common goal, everything is aligned, and as a group, you manage to reach these goals. But that's not simple. I would say to have this balance is very important. And as Ivanise said, not only on your workplace, it's important to out of workplace to balance all that. For things like that, it's difficult. Sometimes there's no right answer, right? But there are wrong answers, okay? I've never seen anyone like high leadership people getting there with a very technical knowledge. I've seen people coming from a world of people interaction that are acquiring technical skills. I have never seen anyone reach the top without having both type of skills. I don't know how it's important to have both things to reach further. Now let's go to a few questions from our audience. First question from Eduardo. It's to Damian, and he asks, what was more important for your role as general manager? Your language skills or your experience on your MBA, or both? Everything, both. I would say that my experience with languages help. MBA helps, but passion that you put in what you do, everything you do, as we said before, is these interactions, the relationships are crucial. You need to have a set of all those skills. To become a general manager or an executive, you have to show different abilities and professional aspects. But as we said, on soft skills as well, we need to know how to work with people. So at the end of the day, we've talked about technology, everything, and so on and so forth, but companies are made of people. So you need to understand and have the experience and expertise. You need to be focused on how you work with people, but how you do things, more than what you do, but how you do. Now I'm going to go to a question that came from our audience to Ivanise, but also a question from Marcus. Marcos asks, how long does it take to learn English? I'm going to use Ivanise's words, because you need to see the importance of things. Learning 3 weeks, you never learn anything in 3 weeks, but some people spend their whole life and cannot learn, and some people learn really fast, many things in one single year. So depends on, of course, there's always my special skills, but I'm not going to focus on that because that is out of my control. It's more sweat and tears than anything else. If you focus and if you have a goal, you're going to take less time. So question from Ivanise. Ivanise, do you think that all areas can benefit from AI? Or should we have some job losses, like in journalism, for example, or people are going to be replaced or getting fired? I think many people can lose their job for that because of a bad interpretation of the use of AI. I think what's happening right now is a bubble. People are really charmed by AI, and they say that they think that it's a silver bullet that's going to solve all problems. But that's going to be shut on the foot. But I think there's another speech, I don't know if you've heard that, to justify job reduction or job cuts. Okay, let's put everything, let's blame AI. I don't think that AI replaces humans. I think it helps humans. and it can be applied in different knowledge areas. Actually, talking to some students about that, I brought them the broad range of areas where we can apply AI. Medical, and not to replace doctors or experts, but it's to help them to be more precise, faster, more agile. Sociology, science. Let me give you an example so you can check the power of all that. I read an article about ants. Ants, the insect. You have ants all over the world, in Turkish, in Brazil, in Greece, in Japan. You have ants all over. But people who work with ants in every country, they cannot consolidate this information to be able to understand what all those little insects have in common. AI can do that. You can have PhD theses or monographies in different languages, bring it all together and try to understand what is in common. You're not replacing the scientist. It's a way of bringing to one single database findings from all over the world. Então, I think to summarize, job losses and job cuts will happen due to AI, but not because AI is going to replace humans, but managers or companies are making these decisions before understanding actually the role of AI and the value of AI. I think that's my interpretation. I think that's what happened in the year 2000s with the dot-coms. Remember, we had the dot-com booms, and then after a couple of years, I said, oh, not exactly like that. And I think that's going to happen with AI as well. Of course, there are some leaders, especially in technology companies. Some of them, some say, okay, in a week, we're going to fire everyone. And then in a week, it's going to be sun. Okay, today we have a thunderstorm, but they're going to predict different forecasts. And from one side to the other, you have this AI transition. Why it's happening, as Ivanise said, not everybody is sure about anything, about the right way to use AI. I do believe that some jobs will be replaced 100% by AI. Others, AI will help them to help the workers to be more efficient, and then the AI will create new jobs that today don't exist. So at the end of the day, it's just like the Industrial Revolution. Humanity became better. We increased the humanity worth after AI. So everybody thought that, okay, you're going to lose all jobs. Well, some jobs disappeared, but in general, it was good for humanity. I have one question from the audience for both of you. And in the meantime, that's the final question that I'm going to ask about. It's about an advice in the world that we live with rapid change for our students that are here with us. But the question came from Rosene. In your experience with digital transformation, what really differentiates one solution that can be scalable globally than one that is basic for the local market? Can I say more specifically for Brazil? It's a good example, okay? I've worked in multinational companies and system implementation globally. What happens when it can be implemented in Brazil? We have many different things like taxes. It's different from for anywhere in the world. I think it's very relevant. Many multinational companies have adopted these concepts. There are processes that are the same, okay, that can be standardized, and you can create a scale globally. You can scale this process globally. You have to identify what process they are and standardize, because it helps. It helps internally. It helps when you have to change the system. It helps when you have to transfer one worker from one country to the other. Doing things in a standardized way helps with efficiency. But there are some other things that are very specific to a specific country, like in Brazil. For Brazil, any system that you implement, taxes needs to be different than what you've implemented in any other country in the world. I've experienced that. There's no way to match the Brazil taxes in a system that was designed for the US, any European country, Mexico. No, doesn't fit. But you need to define what needs to be localized and what can be standardized. Otherwise, you keep trying to localize 100% of the process for each country. And if you work for a multinational company, that's going to be a problem. And it's very inefficient. The most inefficient thing is to have different process and different systems for each operation. That's the most inefficient thing. Ivanise, can you add to this question and close with your advice? I totally agree with Damian. I think that having worked globally, I totally agree that you want standardized process, and having a tool helps. The tool that can be deployed globally helps. We have to reduce changes. Of course, we cannot do everything for every country, but we can have at least a base of common process. If I had to wear the hat of a product developer, I think that you can also have to think about creating products where there is for at least a process base that is common. If you're creating something that is new and you want it to become a solution to be applied globally, you need to think what is common, what sort of framework you can create, and have this well-defined framework and give the option to the client to have some changes locally. Just to end, it's a very open question. Give your opinion to our listeners. What will be your advice in terms of their careers or their education right now? Besides what we just said about AI, I think you have to learn how to use AI, learn new tools, learn how to ask questions. And the most important advice I can give you is anything you decide to do, we have to think, I love what Damian said, focus on the client. If you want to expand more broadly, think on the result that that company or that client expects from you. How do you connect what they expect from you, your client or your company, your employer, to what you do? It can be the highest level, like being the CEO, or the most simple thing, like the person who is inputting invoices in the company. If you don't understand the value proposal of what you do, there's something wrong there. Everything that you do, everything that you have to do, ask yourself this question: how am I adding to the final result to the company or to the client I'm working to? If you manage to answer this question, you are at the right track. Your advice, just to add, I can two advices. First one, flexibility. More flexibility you have in your career, the better. Flexibility to do something different, flexibility to learn something new, another language, move to a different country. Every sort of flexibility that you can have will help your career. And another thing is focusing more on what you can do right now in school. Before I said technical skills that you learn at the university, in a while they are going to be obsolete in the short term. But the most important thing that you can learn in school is learn how to learn. Okay, I think to have this methodology, it's a base that will stay with you for life. Learning to learn is the most important thing that you can bring with you once you graduate. And always think that anything that you do in school or the university, what is the methodology that you're using to study? And how are you interacting with the professor, with other colleagues? What can you replicate later throughout your life and throughout your career? Very good. My advice, I'll put together, I will also thank our guests. My advice would be, don't be afraid to ask. You have to ask, like I got in contact with Damian, I got in contact with Ivanise, to ask their question, to ask their help, I'm sorry. Don't be afraid of asking, but on the long run, you need to know, as Ivanise said, you need to invest your time. You cannot have a transaction that's only beneficial to you. It's not an exact calculation. I asked Damian, I asked Ivanise, no, it doesn't work that way, but network on the long run, if you are always asking and never giving at a certain time, maybe the person will say, okay, this guy is always asking me things. And when you are in a position of helping, don't think transactionally. I say, I can help. Let me help. And with that, you can build a very interesting network, and you can go to the more soft skills, and you can help bring people like Ivanise and Damian. Thank you so very much. And if I can help you somehow in the future, please feel free to call me. So with that, good evening. Thank you, our guests, our participants, our students. Thank you so much.